Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Facebook Live. My name is Kylie, and today we are diving into our LEPSL 580 discussion board MVP interview. Thank you all so much for joining us today, whether you're here with us live or watching the replay. Please go ahead and utilize the chat feature and say hello and let us know that you're here. And with that, I will go ahead and kick it over to our academic director, Dr. Erik Fritsvold. Thank you, everyone.
Well, Kylie, thanks so much for the kind introduction, and as always, for all the legwork and infrastructure stuff that you do behind the scenes to make these events a success. So we appreciate it so very much. And folks out there in the law enforcement and public safety community, thanks for taking time to join us here, again, whether it's live or on the replay, to really take a moment to recognize something that surely deserves our recognition. And that's a student who really raises the bar for the whole program and advances our mission. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a minute and explain why. As Kylie said, this recognizes our discussion board MVP, and we firmly believe that these interactive discussion boards might be the best thing about our program. It allows students from across the country, from different agencies with different roles, to engage the issues of the day through the lens of the course material. So nothing better than having this open forum to share best practices. And that's why we so deeply appreciate when a student really goes above and beyond to contribute to these discussion boards in a way, frankly, that makes us all better. So it's so important. So with that as the backstory, please join me in recognizing our discussion board MVP, as Kylie mentioned, from our LEPSL 580 Law Enforcement Management and Conflict Resolution course, an investigator from the Brighton Police Department outside of Rochester, New York, Investigator Renee Fischer. Huge congratulations, and thanks for taking time out of your day to join us today.
Thank you, Dr. Fritsvold. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm sure a lot of you are in nice, warm conditions right now, and I'm here in the cold, but I'm glad to be here and very appreciate this recognition.
And we do have a couple of students from Canada who might be similar weather climate, so I'm sure they can relate as well. Let's see, I wanted to approach this a little differently, Investigator Fischer, so I'm going to try to organize this chronologically, if you don't mind. So it's my understanding that you were a high-level athlete, that you played college-level softball, and I know a lot of folks in our program are athletes in their lives. Did that experience contribute to your choice to go into law enforcement as a profession?
Yeah, I definitely think there's parallels between my years of playing sports and my interest in pursuing a law enforcement career. I started playing actually baseball because there was no softball when I was little.
Wow.
So I played t-ball, which was t-ball all the way through majors with the boys. And then I transitioned to softball when they had a program for the girls. And I also played basketball. And I started playing those sports, those two, when I was like 4 years old. And I quickly fell in love with the physical and the mental aspects of both of those games. And as I advanced through the levels, I really kind of learned what it means to be a team player. And I knew I wanted a career that involved that team approach. And that is exactly what law enforcement is. I saw it as an opportunity to be part of something that I believed in, and something that I would enjoy doing. To me, like in sports, I was willing to sacrifice my body and give my full effort to help the team win. And in law enforcement, I have that same opportunity to work hard for the betterment of other people. I knew I wanted to do something that was larger than myself. And I wanted to help people, and I wanted a job that would challenge me both physically and mentally. I had zero interest in a job that involved sitting behind a desk and doing the same repetitive tasks day in and day out. And I liked that law enforcement offers that change of pace. No 2 days are ever the same. It's kind of funny because when I would prepare for game days, when I played sports, I had almost like a routine I would follow. And now that I'm in law enforcement, I find myself following routines as well. When I prepare to go on big jobs or I have a large investigation that I'm working, it's kind of funny how they are very much parallel each other. So I really do think that overall, my experience as an athlete has helped prepare me for both the strenuous physical and mental aspects of this job, because it is challenging at times. And so I still work out and try to stay in shape because my safety depends on it.
I really appreciate you taking the time, and it helped me better understand how the mission, the athletic mission and the law enforcement mission, sacrifice for people over and beyond yourself. That really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing that. Speaking of kind of the larger mission of law enforcement, we're roughly 3,000 miles away from each other. How in snowy upstate New York did you hear about the LEPSL program here in San Diego?
Well, when I made the decision that I wanted to go back to school to earn a master's degree, I began with doing a lot of online research, just comparing programs and different graduate programs. And I saw that the University of San Diego's LEPSL program was highly rated, so it definitely caught my eye. And I liked that the course offerings really addressed contemporary issues affecting law enforcement. I wanted something that was kind of progressive in its thought process. I also liked that the program prepares you to become an effective leader. And gives you a competitive edge. And that's kind of what I was looking for, not only to be able to advance in the remaining career that I have, but even post retirement and what I might do after that. So I was looking for something that was fully remote because just basically to accommodate my busy personal and professional life that I have. And I was intrigued by the capstone project. I thought that really represented a culmination of the work you do throughout the program. And I kind of like that as opposed to just a thesis or something of that nature. Plus, a colleague of mine actually is a graduate of this program and not only recommended it to me, but I saw honest feedback from him on it. And I also have a cousin who's a doctorate, has earned her doctorate degree, and she's a professor of master's level college students and at a local university here. So I actually let her review my top contenders and get her feedback, and it was all positive for the University of San Diego LEPSL program. So after that, the decision was made, and I applied, and here I am.
Wow. Well, first, thanks for being so thorough about the research process. We actually encourage everybody who might be interested in our program to do just that, and we believe kind of the more research a law enforcement professional does, hopefully they see many of the unique aspects of our program. We are so fortunate to exist in a non-typical, pretty agile way. So as we were talking about before we kicked off here, for example, in the upcoming course that will start in the summer semester, we have things we've never offered before. We're going to have 2 units on officer wellness, a unit on recruitment and retention, a unit on new technology. We're going to have a guest appearance from Gordon Graham, and we're so appreciative to our university to allow us this agility to try to keep up with your dynamic profession, which, you know, if we're a few months out of date, we're not doing our job well, apparently. So it's a big challenge on our side. So speaking of the coursework, this is only the second time this has ever happened in our program's history that you won this recognition in your very first course. Again, that's only happened one time before. So with that as the backdrop, clearly you were successful right off the bat. Can you talk to us a little bit about your transition? How was it going back to school, and especially at the master's level?
Yeah, I mean, jokingly, I'm old. So, I mean, I graduated with my bachelor's degree back in 2002. So I have been out of the world of academia for a while. But I do actually think that my transition back into this program has gone fairly smooth. And I think that's because I'm such a big time planner. I'm a big time planner. And also, this educational pursuit is a huge priority to not only myself, but my family. So I have that motivation. My spouse and children have been fully supportive of me, and they have allowed me to carve out time from our busy life to devote to my schoolwork, which has been a huge help. And I also student orientation that you guys offer. I found that very helpful because it really helped me learn how to navigate all the resources that are available through the university. And then I've just kind of done a good job of developing new routines for myself and trying to stick to deadlines that, you know, work for me. I like in the law enforcement profession, as we all know, things are never predictable. And so you can sometimes get bogged down with work. Like since I've been in this program, I'm only in like the middle of my second class, I've already been called into work for some large investigations that were very time consuming. So staying ahead of my schoolwork is kind of almost a necessity. So I try to structure it. You guys don't go on a normal weekly basis. So I try to come up with like deadlines for myself that I make sure I hit those high points. So, and I think that, the biggest challenge I've had since joining the program is just probably getting used to the new technology. I'm not that familiar, or haven't been that familiar with Blackboard, because we didn't have that when I went to school last time. And I'm still kind of getting the hang of citing an APA. So aside from that, it's been pretty good. I'm learning a ton, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I will say, in general, you kind of represent our quote unquote typical student, which is an accomplished law enforcement or public safety professional who typically has been away from academia sometime. And I think the average age of folks in our program is in their mid 40s. So I think your story is kind of the story of folks that we're trying our best to serve through this model. And we're so fortunate to have folks who they go to the conferences, they understand best practices, not for all college students, specifically for adult learners in an online environment. So like the calendar and the way that it adapts, like none of that is a coincidence. And frankly, none of that are our ideas. They're based on these national models that seem to work really well, especially for folks who respond to emergencies for a living, apparently. Let's see, speaking of your professional experience, you bring roughly 15 years of experience to the program and leverage that in a wide variety of ways. We have a class on community engagement. We understand that in the current environment, meaningful relationships with the community is among, if not the top priority for many agencies. Can you talk to us a little bit about your role as a liaison with the deaf community, the homeless community, and the LGBTQ plus community, please?
Sure. Yeah. So you said those keywords. I think community policing is a top priority for most agencies nowadays. So a big part of my law enforcement career has been devoted to community engagement initiatives that strive to build relationships with community members, that improve our service outputs, that connect to different segments of the population and get them connected with available resources that we have in our community. And I have been employed with the Brighton Police Department for 15 and a half years. And during that time, I have served in a variety of different roles. I've worn many, many different hats, including the liaison positions that you mentioned. So I do currently act as our department's mental health liaison, the deaf liaison, homeless liaison, and the LGBTQ plus liaison, and in addition to 25 other hats. But those,
Sure.
But in that role, I guess I'll give you a little synopsis on each one. So,
Please.
role as a mental health liaison, I have taught crisis intervention training and mental health first aid training to officers in our whole entire county. I'm one of the only instructors in those topics. So I teach police officers how to handle crisis situations with people who are experiencing a mental health crisis. And then I have also done work on a committee to improve how our process regarding psychiatric holds. I know they call them different things in different parts of the country. We don't actually call them psychiatric holds here, but I know that people in the class do. But trying to improve that process to make it more efficient and better for the end user, the person who's going through the experience. So we've worked really hard on that. And I've also done outreach with members of our community, partnering with our Office of Mental Health, our County Office of Mental Health, where we actually go out. It's a partnership between law enforcement, and we try to follow up with people when they're not in those crisis times to try to de-escalate situations so that they don't get to the point where they're needing to call 911 and have a law enforcement response. So that's kind of what I've done in the mental health liaison side. Now moving on to the deaf liaison role. What a lot of people don't know is in Rochester, New York, we have a large deaf and hard of hearing population that attends the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. It's through the Rochester Institute of Technology. So we have a large population here. And in the town that I work in, we have a lot of individuals that are residing here and working here and going to school here. So because of that, as my role as a deaf liaison, I've helped create a visor card that assists deaf individuals during traffic stops. So it's actually kind of like so that they don't do things that would make us nervous and react poorly, and things that would help that communication and make things go smoothly. So they have this visor card, which is like kind of a quick reference that helps the officer recognize and also helps them know what they should and shouldn't do, like don't reach around and grab things that make us nervous. So that's been really helpful. I've also helped my department not only contract with a American Sign Language interpretation services when it comes to getting supporting depositions and court-worthy stuff. We use like an interpretype device, and we also have certified interpreters that work with us and partner with us. And we even have a means out in the field where we can do it virtually, where we can call in and do a video chat, much like we're doing. So I've worked on really trying to help in that regard. When it comes to, I guess we'll go into the next one. I guess that's the homelessness liaison. I've kind of done a lot of outreach to homeless encampments and assisted individuals in obtaining safe, stable, and permanent housing. That's the goal. Because obviously sometimes the conditions that these folks are living in are far from ideal, and trying to get them into a means of connecting them with the resources that we have and trying to mitigate that the best we can. That's a big part of what I've done. And lastly, as the LGBTQ plus liaison, I've helped my department develop inclusive policies and procedures. So generating our general orders and changing them to make sure that they're very inclusive in nature. I've helped increase our diversity training that we offer, making sure that we, are very sensitive to those folks, and also discovering opportunities to engage with members of that community and really listen, active listening, hear what their concerns are, and try to do things to accommodate those concerns.
Wow, I really appreciate you walking us through those different categories. And if you don't mind me saying so, I know in the classes, we have a specific class dedicated to community engagement, which you'll take in a few semesters. One of the risks of community policing is that it becomes a slogan on a poster, or it becomes something that people talk about in a visible way, but don't meaningfully do. And the reason I appreciate you walking us through those details, it seems like with your leadership, you and your department have really carved out proactive and meaningful ways to engage these different segments of your community. So kudos on, the risk of community policing is that it looks great on the flyer, but people don't really do it. So kudos to you and your agency for carving out things.
Yeah, it's not just it's not just a title that you throw around, and it has to be repetitive, and it has to be ongoing, and things change. It's not just like you do it once and have a meeting, and no, it's ongoing connection. It's building empathy, it's building trust, and it makes a huge difference.
Wow. So thinking of all those different roles and 15 years of experience, can you talk us through just a little bit about your experience on the discussion boards? Clearly, again, you were tremendously successful right out of the gates here. What was it like for you to engage your colleagues across the country in that forum?
I think my experience on the discussion boards has been great thus far. I have been truly impressed by the insightful discussions that take place there, and everyone's critical thinking skills have truly impressed me. The discussion board, I truly believe, is the core of this program, and it's been so valuable to learn from professionals across the country. One thing I've kind of learned is no matter how large or small your agency is, the challenges that we all face are the same. And chances are, whatever situation you find yourself in, someone else in the class has probably experienced something similar, and they can offer you valuable advice, which makes all the difference in the world. I have learned so much from other students through the discussion boards. I view the weekly discussion prompt, like the initial prompt, as a mini essay assignment. That's how I look at it. And I try my best to not only post it early, but I try to make it as substantive as possible so that it adds value and that it gets everyone thinking. The discussion board is really a place where students can challenge each other's way of thinking, and also in a polite and courteous way, as well as share best practices. And there has been people that have really given me great insight that's helped me overcome things that I've experienced even since joining this program. So I think there's a ton of value there.
I really appreciate the way you articulated that. One of my favorite things in my role is seeing students connect around a particular new initiative or new team. A couple examples, just in the past maybe handful of months, we've had a student who is taking over the bike patrol team and wasn't sure. So he reached out for some assistance from classmates, and they connected offline and ended up sharing a lot of structural things about how they supervise that team. We had a hostage negotiator in a similar spot that he was taking on a new role and wanted to get some insight from the student community. So what a cool thing to in academia to have this safe space to exchange ideas without really professional concerns or not in the confines of your organization. So speaking of how vigorous you are, Investigator Fischer, on these discussion boards, As you mentioned, you have a demanding and busy job. You have a thriving household. You have a spouse who works full time. I'm sure a lot of folks out there are curious, how do you balance? And it's my understanding you still get to coach in the baseball area and still remain committed to your own hobbies and interests, including fitness. So with those 5 major things on your plate every week, how are you so engaged? How do you make time for it?
I wish no, that's a good question. I'm not going to lie. My home life with 4 children, ages 5 and under. Yes, you heard me correct. I have 4 children, ages 5 and under, can be quite chaotic at times. Plus, I have a spouse who works like strictly overnight shifts in healthcare. And sometimes I feel like we're almost like passing ships in the night. But as a criminal investigator, I'm on call every 3rd week. So I'm actually at work right now. I'm actually on call this week. So they can call me in day or night, and it can be very unpredictable at times. And I might get stuck there for hours, depending on how severe the cases that I'm presented with. I also coach my oldest daughter's T-ball team. You're correct with that. I also belong to an indoor rock climbing gym, and I work out at the YMCA, and I love to travel and do other things with my family. So finding a balance between those professional demands, my family, the LEPSL program, and also my recreation and fitness is not an easy feat. But I find that utilizing a schedule and allotting a certain amount of time for each activity really allows me to accomplish most of those things successfully. I try to take advantage of the early mornings and the late evenings when my children are asleep to get schoolwork done. And with me being on the East Coast and being in a program that's on the West Coast, the time difference certainly helps a little bit. And if there's changes in my schedule that occur, I try to just be as flexible as possible. And if I end up, missing out on something with my family, I just try to make it up to them later by making sure that I have that quality time at a different time. I mean, we all in law enforcement know that you never always get to do the things at the normal time, like even holidays. To me, it's never, I've been in my 15 and a half years, I don't think there's very few times I've actually celebrated Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. So it's not a matter of just doing it at the set times. It's whatever you can make work. And so I think, like I said, planning is the key to be able to juggle all of those things. And I don't want to, cut any one part of it, not give them my full attention. So when I'm there, I'm present and I give it my full effort.
Oh, that's fantastic. And kudos for, thriving in all these different roles. I can say that one of the things I really appreciate about this program, for you and any students or prospective students that happen to be listening, our faculty have walked in your shoes. So they understand these demands in a very lived way. So a quick email, if assignment extensions are prudent, we're happy to do that. This hasn't happened in your tenure yet. But when there are large-scale events that impact law enforcement nationwide, for example, a few years ago, there were some devastating wildfires across the West that impacted a lot of our students. We will cut back course requirements unilaterally for everybody. So we're slow, but we're learning. And I think one of the best ways we can serve you is understand the demands of your profession and make sure that faculty are not only trained to be flexible, but understand the reasons why. So we kind of pride ourselves in kind of meeting you where you are, I think is the academic phrasing there.
No, and that's absolutely true, because even in this class that we're talking about, Professor Nair was my professor, and I emailed him and I had a response immediately. And there was one time where I had a conflict arise, and he was very understanding of that and made accommodations for me. Sometimes that's just the reality. I'm jokingly say that I haven't submitted my paper for this week, and usually I submit it by no later than Friday. So I'm already behind the game, but that's because I had an investigation. It was a fatal motor vehicle accident between a car and a bicyclist that was actually fatally killed in the accident. And we just arrested somebody for vehicular manslaughter. So wow. I've been busy with that. So that's my reason for my delay, but it will be there on time, but it's a little late for me. So I'm already missing my deadline a little bit. So.
Well, first, good luck with what sounds like a challenging investigation and related prosecution, but it sounds like your key to success is working ahead a little bit and being organized or hyper-organized, things that I try to pride myself in as well. So pushing forward here a little bit, Investigator Fischer, when students vote, as you know, they don't just cast their numerical vote, they also provide a little bit of a rationale. So this is the part where I get to embarrass you a little bit, which is my favorite part. going through all the students who voted for you, some themes that jumped off that, and you've kind of hit on some of these already, that you posted early, that you were active throughout the week, that your responses were particularly informative or lengthy. But several students noted that your post benefited the entire class, that it seemed like you weren't just talking about how this issue impacted your agency, but really you were trying to engage colleagues in a meaningful way for everybody's benefit. I'll read you a few quotes here. Renee is always the first one to post on the discussion board. She always promotes constructive interaction and encourages others to have good discussions. I think that's pretty serious praise there. Another student said, the reason she wins is because of substantive posts and effort. She's the early bird each week with a solid understanding of the course material relevant to her lived experience on the job. She's very candid. She is the MVP, in my opinion, with multiple exclamation points. With that praise as the backdrop, what were some of your favorite topics in this conflict resolution class, or were there particular skills that stood out to you in any way?
I loved the class. I thought it was so relatable to everyday life at home and in the workplace. I thought the skills that you learn there are so transferable to every aspect of your life. It really taught practical techniques and strategies for preventing and resolving both short-term and chronic conflicts. I loved how the course suggested viewing disputes and divisions not as a hindrance, but as opportunities for greater creativity, enhanced morale, increased productivity, and personal growth. I mean, I thought that was just an amazing way to look at it, because I've never looked at conflict like that. Nobody likes to be in conflict, and when you're in it, it's stressful, but they really are. When I look at it and I look at life, I kind of believe that we don't really learn much from the easy parts of life. It's actually the conflict that we learn the most from. So I really love that about the class. My favorite topic in the course was the section on listening emphatically and responsively, because I truly believe that active listening is the most important skill that any police officer or deputy can learn in their career. Many situations can be resolved by using active listening to build empathy and to validate. The name of the game is always validate, validate, validate,
right.
How somebody's feeling. So de-escalation is the name of the game in our profession. And the more you build that skill set, the better outcomes you're going to have. It's not an easy thing. Like I said, that sometimes we gain the greatest meaning in life from overcoming adversity and conflict. That's what we really learn from. So I think that this course taught several relevant topics, such things as like how to recognize your own difficult behaviors.
Right.
So, and also how to lead as a committed listener, how to solve problems creatively and with a collaborative approach. And I think that this was, it really kind of opened my mind and helped me self-reflect on my own difficult behaviors and how I handle that. And I thought that the biggest thing, I appreciate the praise and that was wonderful, but I think what I really did well at was that I was willing to be vulnerable. And with the examples that I shared, I mean, obviously keeping it, sensitive and whatever, but by having those frank discussions about both things that were the things that I had success with and the things that I failed at, really, I hope it helped others in the class, and I hope that they benefited from it, because being vulnerable and kind of opening up and even giving, kind of examples of things that haven't always gone great, I think that really elicits conversation.
Yeah. And I think those themes come out loud and clear, and that strategy comes through loud and clear if you, were to read all the folks that voted for you, and you won by quite a margin for what it's worth. And like yourself, this course, it's something I wish I would have had 20 years earlier. And I had a suspicion that it was going to help me in my professional life. But going through it alongside students, teaching a section of it myself, I was surprised how much it helped me in my personal life. And, regardless of what age of person that you were discussing something with, there were strategies from that course that I used, almost on a daily basis. So I was right in there with you and was so happy that it had such practical value. Investigator Fischer, we've covered tons of great ground here. Appreciate the time and all the insight. Any final thoughts, any ground I failed to cover, any final words for our law enforcement and public safety community out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, I just wanted to respond to what you just said, because I think that's so important. What I really love
Please.
about the program and what I love about the discussion boards is the fact that, like, title doesn't matter. The hierarchy that we typically see doesn't matter. And we have people in the room that are way higher ranking than me. And they've been in the program, they're on their last class and I'm in my first, but you know what? It's a level playing field. And we can all learn, because at the end of the day, like you said, we're human beings. And these skills are not just for our professions, they're for our everyday life. And so I think that's really important. But to lead my lasting remarks to everyone is, first, I want to thank everyone in the LEPSL community for this meaningful recognition. Finding out that I was selected as the discussion board MVP was a complete surprise, but also an honor. I considered it an absolute privilege to be part of this talented group of law enforcement professionals who are dedicated to improving their communities and making a difference. Knowing that there's people in this program who want me to succeed is a huge motivator. I'm so pleased to have been given this opportunity to shed a positive light on my department. And I want to thank everyone for making me feel so at home in my first ever graduate level class. I hope that one day I'll be able to help students achieve their goals, just as my peers and the faculty in this program have done for me. And to me, learning is a lifelong journey. And I believe that the most important quality a leader can have is their ability to learn. So with that, that's kind of my closing remarks for this forum.
Wow. Well, I couldn't think of any better or more powerful way to end this, but I just want to reiterate on behalf of the entire LEPSL faculty, our admin staff, all the students, Investigator Fischer, it's such a privilege to work with students like yourself that just really raise the bar, raise the level of performance, and bring so much to the program. And students like you really, really are the heartbeat of the program. So we appreciate it. Thank you. And I think I get to kick it back to Kylie to close us out here.
Great. Yes, thank you both so much for hopping on today. And thank you all who are watching the live and everyone watching the replay. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.